up? This here is Steph welcoming you back to Playing God, the game of arting. Since I'm the host this time, I can call it that. This week I'll be showing you my self-drawing Link, specifically Link Between Worlds Link. I adore him, and it's going to be fun to show you the way I draw. So let's go! So you'll notice something different from Tori's sketch to mine real quick. Like, why is there a giant block instead of a character? Why is there this huge blob thing instead of a shield? What is even going on here? Well, I want to map out the entire character before I start doing details, and getting the pose down from my reference is crucial. I find it difficult to just go ahead and start drawing stuff actually. I need to build these giant shapes, like the block where the shield is, before I can chip out what's actually going on. The pose is actually really annoying because of Link's shield here. It's huge and blocking a good chunk of the figure, so I'm guessing part of the form. I could have just taken out the shield entirely and have him standing there with just the Master Sword, but that's a lot of Link to fake and it doesn't look nearly as interesting without a shield. Just try to get down the pose and character from your reference. Hell, go ahead and change small things if you want. You want your sketch to make sense in itself, not look exactly like your reference, because some things just don't translate that well. This is the fun part. Pull into the computer, you don't have to finish the sketch entirely. You can add little details and make things up later, as long as you don't forget. When you finish your sketch and get to lines, what you're going to end up doing is tracing your sketch. My to the computer process is exactly like Tori's. Take a picture and send it to yourself and open it in Paint Tool SAI. Take your tiny brush on your high stabilizer and go copy your lines on a new layer. I tend to make a lot of layers when I line so I can erase all the unnecessary stuff I use to make things look like they go under and through things, but I'm going to flat them all when I'm done so it doesn't really matter. You also notice that this picture seems to be going on a magical swirly journey a lot. That's because I keep rotating the canvas. It makes things easier to line since there's this natural curve your hand wants to take. When I line the clothes, I make each fold wrap around and exaggerate some things like that. That's intentional. I want to make it look like his tunic is actually curving around his body with volume and stuff, instead of awkwardly stapled on the screen pretending to be attached to him. It makes him have some dimension before you even get to shading and shaping. For convenience sake, I also copy lines from each of reused shapes. The bird on his shield is symmetrical, and so is his sword, so just easier to copy, paste, and flip. You use the transform tool to move things around if you really need to. It makes life a lot easier, I promise. But make all the mistakes you want or need. That's what Control Z is for. It's your friend. We're very buddy-buddy. So just finish tracing Link, add a little details if you left anything out for later. And yeah, go on. And now flats. Easiest part! If you put your lines in multiple layers like I did, flatten them. And then take your reference image, mine's in the corner because I like having things all in one place, and pull colors from it. Select parts of Link with the magic wand tool, face, hair, shirt, etc. and fill them on separate layers. Be sure to label them or you're gonna get hella lost. There isn't really much to say about flats. If you've kind of a bad picture for reference, one where it's hard to distinguish the true color from between the shadows and the highlights, you're going to have to make it up a little. Just enough to correct, not so much that it looks wrong. We just want to make sure that it's somewhere kind of in the middle and not too light or too dark. At the end, I like to use what I call a color check layer. It's just a solid wall of some completely random color that isn't anywhere on this image. Here it's orange, because that's noticeable, and Link doesn't have any orange on him, so it works. It's just to make sure I don't have any tiny gaps in my color, since it's easy to overlook small things, and holes are bad. While this doesn't look very much like shading yet, Technically, this is a part of shading. I deal with shadows a lot differently than Tori does though, so right now we're just contouring the artwork, making it look not flat. Things are also rarely ever one solid color all the way through, so you just want to dust over the shapes. At this point, you also kind of want to have an idea of where your light source is going to be, because the darker the contour is, the farther away from the light it is. What I do is I take the flat color on a new layer and, putting that layer on a clipping group and darkening the flat color, I dust over things with the airbrush tool to give it some dimension. Pay attention to the edges of things and the rise and fall of crap. This fabric especially has a lot of bunches you want to deal with and make it look like they're there and not flat. You don't want flat. Wash, rinse, repeat for all the other layers and you've combed through them all. And once you finish that, hide all the layers. Just hide everything but the liner and make a new one. Label it shadows because guess what we're doing? This particular way to do shadows is called cell shading and it's used mainly by animators because it's much easier to do than a more traditional format. Choose the color of your light and your light source. Because this is Link Between Worlds Link and I think low roll looks cool, I chose a bluish violet color for the light. That means that the shadows are going to be a reddish violet. The violet harmonizes things. From there, all in one layer, we map out where the shadows are going to fall. The other side of the hair, the pits of his eyes, the creases on his clothes, everything that falls away from the light. What's going to happen at the end is going to look really dramatic, like it just came out of some intense part of a comic. This is normal. done with all of this, throw that layer on multiply. The setting is over to the right of the layers. And return all of your colors. Holy shit, he's suddenly colored and shaded, it's a miracle. Play with the opacity of the shadows until you like it. Throw some highlights on a new layer and he's looking pretty good. Pretty near done even. So now all that's left is a background and, if you so fancy, colored line art. I so fancy. I clip a layer to my line art and muck around with colors, because I like having colors more than the black lines. I chose a ruddy brown here, which mixes well with what Link's got going on. And as for background, it's really simple because I like to do what Tori did. We give him someplace to stand, yank that stuff from Photoshop, and spot the background with a really large brush with an off color. This is just to see what you're doing. When you have the spot pattern you're fond of, take the gradient tool and choose two related colors. I use the highlight and the shadow colors, and make it shine where your light source came from on a clipped layer. And then just play with it however you like until you're happy with it. Be sure to save it as a PNG in Photoshop specifically to preserve the transparency, and you're done. You have a link. We will see you next time with Tori drawing. Well, it'll be a surprise. Have a nice day, or night, or both or neither. I don't judge.